Okay, I'm making this video for those who have been too busy over the last 5 years to understand what is going on. So basically, we've been living through a time of a global military operation playing out biblically. We're watching a bit of a movie because there were 2.5 million military hearings to be had at Gitmo in Guantanamo Bay of Cuba. So to show you a few things that I've done ahead of time, and there are others out there that knew similar information too that follow what we do, but I'm just speaking to those to show the knowledge of how this is unfolding and what sort of knowledge you need to know to understand what is playing out. I also tell my followers who only know the Bible that they need to know the military operation with the Bible, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the one main thing to begin with is 5 years ago I told my followers that we would not have a Commonwealth Games in Australia. The reason I knew that is because when Trump visited the Queen, she showed her military to him and he walked in front of her, and you have to walk side by side with the Queen. Otherwise that's breaking protocol. But he was basically telling her, your time's up, you're finished. So the Queen, so basically Trump reigns over the Commonwealth with the US military, and so that's how I knew there wouldn't be a Commonwealth Games. Otherwise, who's running on their own? Probably England. So that's the reason why there's no Commonwealth Games, and many people will go, oh, because Melbourne, Victoria doesn't have any money and this and that. The reason why they don't have any money, because there's a new financial situation that is backed by gold in the new system. It's our system. It's not the old Federal Reserve system where they can just go and borrow money at free will. That's why they don't have any money. Otherwise they would just go borrow money. And they were aligned with the New World Order, as many were. So we don't allow them to borrow any money. So they can't have a Commonwealth Games for that reason, even if it was a monetary thing. But it's not. It's because Trump has taken over the Commonwealth. So that's why he's building a tower at the Gold Coast. He's basically putting his flag in the ground to say, I've conquered the Commonwealth. The next thing is what I did was 2 years prior to Biden being removed from office, I said Biden will be removed from office by July 2024. And it's pretty simple once I get to the end of it, of how I got to it, but you have to understand a few things, and that is when Trump won his 2016 presidential election, he was there with his team, and the female reporter said, "What storm, Mr. President?" And he said, "You'll find out." And that is the global military operation to take down the old central banks and Rothschilds and Rockefellers, BlackRock and all that shit. So then you put with, not long ago they said Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. It's not he had sex with Stormy Daniels, that's in biblical code. And I did this 2 years ahead of time. I said Biden will be out of office by July 2024. And all I did was add Stormy is the storm is upon us. Daniels is the book of Daniel. A beast is in power for 3.5 years and another 3.5 years. So all I did was add 3.5 years to Biden's inauguration, and basically I was within 24 hours of Biden standing down. There was a little bit of stuffing around with Kamala and whatever. He was there in dribs and drabs, but basically he stood down on July 20, 2024. So that's why I said Biden was the beast. So there's a few things you need to understand. The next thing, and I can't take full credit for this, is the 120-day Jassara and Asara elections. But what I did from that, I went and researched when a US constitutional president inauguration was in history, and that is March the 4th. So what I did is I took 120 days away from that date, and then it comes up with November 5th. There is a movie called V for Vendetta, and it says, remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason plot. I know of no reason for the gunpowder treason to be forgot. When Obama was in power, Obama was born in Kenya, so that's treason. So you can't do that to sell out your own country or the US for your own benefit. And just like Ukraine was used as a money filtering operation, the same thing, the Bidens were making a lot of money through there. Anyway, so Biden, even though he was inaugurated, soon after he was executed, I think in 2021. So we were watching actors play out Biden's role, like James Woods, Jim Carrey, and a couple others, and also a robot. So that's that. I expect that the US military, whoever calls it, doesn't matter, it's a military operation, whoever calls, the US military will call constitution elections on November 4th or 5th. That is my prediction, and that will dissolve the US corporation publicly. So the Federal Reserve building was boarded up in 2021, I'm pretty sure, in the US. So that's how long it's been finished, and the Federal Reserve was backed into the Treasury. So the Treasury is to do with the Constitution. So with that said, what I was up to, Biden, Federal Reserve, Constitution. When the US corporation is dissolved in Australia, because now Trump and the US military reign over the Commonwealth, our government will fall, and we will have proper constitution elections, and we'll have 10% of government officials, we are told. So whilst we're meant to be under the Constitution in Australia, whilst you still have capital letters on your license, it means we are under the corporation. It's a falsified constitution that we're under. So all these lawyers, judges, all that, they're going to have to, well, they'll be taken down for acting under a false constitution, I would say. As we've been told, anyone employed by the government won't have a job. That goes for like military, government officials, anyone employed by the government, because they're all employed under the old system and laws, Admiralty law and maritime law, and supposedly we're going to common law and constitutional law. So, for example, we own the roads because we paid for them. They sold us out to third parties so that we would continue to pay tolls after they'd finished paying for the roads. When we go into the Constitution and on our licenses, we might have one capital letter with all lowercase. My question is, how are they making us pay for registration if we own the roads? And people say, well, who's going to pay for the roads? Well, all that gold that was repossessed out of the Vatican tunnels, kilometers long of it, that they enslaved us with, all that will be redistributed throughout the different countries, and that will be what will be used to redevelop countries and pay for roads and infrastructure, is my understanding. Is it going to play out exactly like that? I don't know. This is just my collective information that makes sense to me. Also, in Australia, especially the Gold Coast, we're getting ready for the 2032 Olympics. We were told that every country's persons will go back to their own country and develop their own countries. So I think why they mixed us all in with Hindus, Islam, everything, is because when Jesus returns, all these people will understand how we live and what is expected at what level they need to be at in our human existence. So when Jesus returns, they really know who Jesus is. What I see happening with the unit market at the Gold Coast is all these towers are getting built for the Olympics. When everyone goes back to their own country, I believe that our new government will say, all right, international investors, you now have 2 years to sell off your assets in this country. So then everyone takes back their own countries. A part of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the way that I see that they formed that was basically to stick it up the Rothschilds' central banking system, to basically go, just with these 5 countries, we've screwed your financial system, because just with these 5 countries alone, they account for over half the world's population. So then what the military operation does is they go to all these other countries and for the new gold-backed system, and they say to them, if you join our new gold-backed, silver-backed system, financial system, we'll give you back your country. You can develop your country again. You can mine what's in your grounds, and your country can prosper in the future, and so too will your people. Or you can stay with the US dollar and be enslaved to it for many more years to come. What do you choose? And then they all come to our new system, and all the world has, and those that stuck strong to the New World Order will be taken down for their crimes. As I said, there were 2.5 million military hearings to be had in Gitmo. The Queen's death was announced on September 8th for a reason. The military used them as markers to show people like me that have knowledge of what's going on in a wartime. So the Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba, and in Cuba they in the wartime they had something that was called the 3-day Bay of Pigs. So her death was announced September 8th. If you add the 3-day Bay of Pigs to it, that comes to 9/11. So Trump is the 45th president and the 47th for a reason. 4 and 5 is 9, 4 and 7 is 11. 9/11. I believe that Jesus Christ was born on 9/11. Go to Christmas Day and go around 40 weeks roughly, and it'll bring you somewhere near 9/11. So if you go to Freemasonry, all they ever try to do is take our numbers and try to use them themselves to say we are in power now, and then they make a mockery of them. So if you have a look at the Freemason set, square and compass, the set square is 90 degrees. Take the 0 off when you decode, so that's a 9. 47 degrees the compass, 4 and 7 is 11, that's 9/11. There's a G in the middle of the compass. We talk about A to Z is 26, plus G is 33, which is G is 7. So that's a hidden 33, 33 degree Freemason, or 33 Jesus died on the cross. They use these numbers, as they say, hidden in plain sight. So my next thing is, Australia has a massive part to play in the end times of the Bible, even though it's not written in the Bible. I believe that Australia was a land of nothing. I do not believe that, as we call Aboriginals, I do not believe that they were native to this country. I believe Australia was a land of nothing. Whoever was orchestrating in the world at the time, go, what are we going to use this for? We'll use it for the end times. One, the evil side tries to use it to disprove the Bible. For example, what I think they did is they got a southern Indian tribe who have dogs that look like dingoes, and they are also in Indonesia also. So somewhere up around there, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Indonesia type area. So what they do is they grab a tribe from there, they place them a small amount of population all around Australia, so it looks like that they've occupied the country for a long, long time. Then they grab the English convicts and then they spread them all around the country. Then the English and the supposed Aboriginals have a few fights, few killings, which is not good in any form, but what it does, it grabs onto our heartstrings, and it pulls on our heartstrings and creates a story. So, but what the evil side wanted to do is disprove the Bible. So they say Aboriginals have been here for 65,000 years, which is a total load of rubbish. I used to think that. I got Aboriginal mates, and I used to say to them that you have been here for 65,000 years, until I started researching flat out for the last 5 years, and I've done somewhere near 8 hours to 15 hours a day research on all topics. Let's just say Aboriginals were native to this land. India has 1.5 billion people. Where are all the billions of Aboriginals? And if they were killed off, where are the billions of burial sites? They do not exist, and they do not have evolution of how they, infrastructure and all that type of thing. They still had spears and stuff. It just does not make sense at all. It's an absolute load of rubbish. So it's not white people against Aboriginals. We were both used by the people that were orchestrating this world. So we are all made in the image of God. So it's about time we figure out who was orchestrating these things, so that we can bring them down, so all people of the world who are made in the image of God can prosper in this new world. So yeah, it's not anyone against anyone. It's taking down the evil, basically, and making sure that we get to the truth, because there's no point living a lie. Anything our government our New World Order government at the moment tries to push, like welcome to country, you know it's not for a good reason. And so if they could prove that Aboriginals have been here for 65,000 years, it would wipe out Adam and Eve, because biblical years, I believe, is 5,787 this year, and it falls on 9/11. So if they could prove 65,000 years, that would mean that Adam and Eve does not mean anything. It would wipe out the beginning of time. So there's a reason why we have held 2 Olympics. And as I spoke to you before about A to Z, the year 2000 we held the Sydney Olympics in Australia. That's 2,000 years after Jesus. So the next one we are holding is 2032. The next year after that is 33, and Jesus died on the cross at 33. Another number I will talk about is, so the year 2000, A to Z is 26, so 2026. We were told when we get to 2026 and look back, everything would have been done. Then you go to 27, that will begin again. We begin again. Jesus begun his ministry at AD 27. So 2027, 2,000 years after he begun his ministry. And so I think from 2027 to 2033 will be a time of God. The evil use 27 on purpose. They use G20 summit or G7, but they used G20 in the past. So 20 and 7, G, is 27. So they use that on purpose to say, we're in power now, we take the numbers. Then Islam say they get 72 virgins in heaven. So all they do, they either use the number or they mirror the number to 72. So you can tell that Islam is made up. They just mirror what is already ours. They're full of shit. And you've got Islam that pray to Muhammad, who was a pedophile. They pray 5 times a day to him. Allah, in translation, he calls himself the Great Deceiver. The Great Deceiver is Satan. God does not need to deceive anyone. God created all things, so why would he need to deceive anyone? It doesn't make sense. In the Quran, it says Jesus is coming back to judge, but only God can judge. So Jesus is God. But it also says in our Bible that they will come with a counterfeit Jesus. So that's it. It's not a religion, it's ideology. Theirs is made up, in my opinion. It's just made up in opposition to what is pure. And that is Jesus Christ. Even if you took away the resurrection of Christ, Jesus is still, you can't get better than a sinless man. So he is the greatest person, God, to fulfill your life with, just from that, and taking away the resurrection. But if you add that to it, it just wipes them out totally. So before the 2020 election, Trump handed over power to the US military. He then became Commander-in-Chief of the military on March 11, 2021, I'm pretty sure. So we were under a military occupancy, and so when we went through Biden's period, we executed him not long after his inauguration, but all the executive orders that Biden supposedly signed, they didn't mean anything because we were under military operation. And martial law is the highest law in the land. And I've had lawyers in here argue that martial law is a quick situation, blah, blah, blah. And I say, there's one big problem that you have. This martial law or military law is soft disclosure. It's over a long period. And even if you think what you think, we hold the gold now. So we make the rules. As well as we control the oil. There's some oil getting blown up in Australia at the moment, and we've been targeting, our military operation targets these oil deposits because we do not want to fuel the pockets of the evil. We want to cut their supply off of money because then they simply do not have any power. The Queen was allowed to leave a legacy because, as we say, under the umbrella of God, when you do a deal with someone and they give up a lot of people, you have to honor that deal. So the Queen, normal people won't know what the Queen did, but I know what she did. But that's why I'm doing this video. She was involved in child trafficking, human trafficking, organ harvesting, adrenochrome, having mothers have children underground that we don't even know about to produce children for their evil ways. So I'll get to the tunnels in a moment. But the reason, so Trump is the 19th president, wartime president. He will become the 33rd constitutional president. The reason, whenever you see 13, it means Jesus and his 12 disciples. Whenever you see 33, it's because of Jesus' death on the cross. The reason they created the Federal Reserve on 1913 is because Jesus and his 12 disciples. The reason they did a gold buyback on 1933 is because Jesus died on the cross. And they're saying, we have the power now. So then you had the fake moon landing on 1969. And then they brought in the petrodollar in 1971 and then printed us into oblivion. So getting back to the tunnels all throughout the world, they're called DUMBs, deep underground military base systems. And in there, they were doing all evil, all child trafficking, all that type of stuff. And so what the military do, they go into these tunnels and they remove all the bodies, whether they're alive or dead. They remove all the bodies. And then they blow up the tunnels, because a part of the new system is there's to be no underground tunnels to do that type of evil. So they blow up the tunnels either with explosives or lasers or whatever they blow them up with. And that is what the earthquakes are that we've heard all around the world. Sometimes they don't have to be, they're not proper earthquakes or make proper earthquakes. It's just the announcement of what the earthquake was. And sometimes it'll be 7.4 because maybe that's a military code for Jesus, because if you add up all the letters in Jesus, it comes to 74. It's why Freemasonry use 47 as their compass, because it's a mirror to what numerical value Jesus becomes, 74. So they use 47. The state of Israel begun in 1948, straight after 47. There's a whole lot of rugby league events that happen, the 47th Battalion and all that. That's to do with Freemasonry. Yeah, so Trump will be the 19th, he's the 19th military president. It'd be the 33rd constitutional president, 1933. They finished the gold buyback was announced in 1933 and it was completed by 1934. And you'll see Trump at the moment, he says things about, you know, Lebanon and Israel haven't spoken for 34 years and there's other 34 codes around at the moment. He's basically pointing at the 34 satanic buildings that are all around the world, including the Sydney Opera House. So, what else? Okay, so once the tunnels are blown up, they create a weather event and then they flush out the tunnels. So that's what all the floods have been. They do this because it is biblical. They wash away, they're basically washing away the sins. So they flood the tunnels. So that's that. Now, there's a few things of what the people who only read the Bible need to know to understand who's orchestrating and who is in control of this movie playing out. And yes, it's all God's work in the end. But when you read the Bible, and it says when you go into a beast system, you automatically think we're all going to get screwed over. But there's two things that two indicators, and there's many more, but two major indicators to show you who's in power. Number one, the evil would not raise the prices of gold. They would continue to print money and enslave the people. Number two is the oil prices at the moment. So the New World Order's plan was to lift the prices of fuel and keep fuel at a high price for a long time. Therefore, then it would push everyone into electric vehicles. However, we control the oil now and we control the gold. So, petrol prices won't stay high for a long time. And maybe they might stay high up until maybe when we get towards the constitutional elections. But there's going to come a point when we're close to it that oil will dump in price and petrol will become cheap. Therefore, we will have a mix of vehicles. It won't be just electric vehicles, because that's what they would have all pushed us into if the evil were in control. And then they would control where our car goes or whether it goes at all. So that's that. You can keep an eye out for that as another indicator. You're going to see that fuel will dump. And because we were told that we will have a spread of vehicles, petrol vehicles, even hydrogen vehicles, electric vehicles, and you'll be able to choose whatever you want to drive. They won't dictate where your car goes. Now, with the surveillance, all the cameras that are around, that would be a problem if the evil was in control, but they're not. So it's a difference between being controlled by Satan and being watched over by God. In the new system, everyone's going to have money. Therefore, probably 80% of people that do crime won't have to do it anymore, because most people do crime because they need money. Only the diehards that really want to cause evil will continue it, but they will be found very quickly in this new system. The two financial systems, the New World Order, you would get a certain amount of money every month, but that money would reset. But you would get a vaccine passport and it would say you are due for your vaccine. And if you didn't get that vaccine, your money would not reset. So basically, if you wanted the money, they could put whatever they want in the vaccines, and you would have to take what's in that vaccine, and then they would just kill our population. The Georgia Guidestones have written on them, maintain population under 500 million. So they wanted to remove 15/16 of the world's population. So I'll explain the military sting operation, both with the before 2020 election, the military watermarked all the ballots. Therefore, all the fake ballots that the Bidens printed off when they boarded up all their buildings so that we couldn't see what was going on inside, the military know exactly where the proper ballots are, because they are watermarked and they're GPS. They can be tracked by GPS. So all the other ones that were printed off were fake. So that's a sting operation for the election, as well as the Dominion voting. The other thing is the vaccines. And just say that I am Trump and you are the vaccine companies. This is how we take down Big Pharma. You come to me and you say, this is what's in the vaccines, and I have a look at it and go, yep, that's all above board, sign off on it, and you go away, put out your vaccines, and but you put out your vaccines, but sporadically you put out bad batches of vaccines, and they're the ones that kill and injure people. So, but they have vial codes on them, and that was what the military were tracking, where people were getting killed and injured. So that is how we track the vial codes, and then we bring down Big Pharma for crimes against humanity. And as I was saying, this whole thing is about crimes against humanity, bringing down the evil, and treason. Obama was treasonous president, so Biden and all those. So that's the vaccines. We've been told that there'll be 6 billion phones distributed out to us, military grade quantum technology. And in those phones, for example, we are creating our own financial system so that your money is not held in banks. So with these phones, basically what I see happening is it'll be basically like crypto, where you have your own wallet within your phone and you'll have custody of your money and not your money being in a bank. So the demise of the US dollar, in especially what they talk about, you know, Trump being what's his name, you know, I can't remember the bloke, but in time, Cyrus or whatever, where he grazes his left ear and whatever. But the demise of the US dollar, that is what I believe XRP's job is to do, is to create a level playing field for the world. So basically there was Basel III and Basel IV, and basically what I saw was the banks, the military go to the banks and they say, if you have funded any evil as to do with crimes against humanity or treason or whatever, your bank's going under. That's number one. Number two is that Basel III. So the military go to the banks and they say, whatever money that you've lent out over the years, you now have to back your position with assets. And if by this date, within this percentage, and that percentage will be quite small rather than what it used to be, loose with the Federal Reserve, because now they're playing by our rules. So if they can't get to that percentage by that date, their bank goes under. And you can do a simple search, a Google search of how many hundreds of banks throughout the world that have gone under in these last 4 or 5 years, and you'll be shocked if you haven't been paying attention to this. So the banks will be passengers in the new system. So they will play by our rules. And what I see happening is Ripple will be intertwined with the banks. They'll be the new banking infrastructure that connect to digital payments. So every country will have its own digital currency. Everyone will be tokenized. The US dollar will become the US note token, and many others will be tokenized. So the Ripple, the company, will use XRP to be the world's bridge currency. And also do your own research. I'm just speaking from my point of view. So I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. So please do your own research. But what I see XRP's job is to create a level playing field, so low cost transactions that happen in 3 seconds, so banks can't hold the money. And people always say, oh, if XRP was going to be the one, the banks would just buy it off the market now. And I say, you've got no idea what you're talking about, because the banking system is finished. They don't hold the power anymore. We're not taking the power away from them and then giving the power back to them. Banks will never be able to own XRP. They will only be able to borrow it from us to transact with. For example, when these laws pass and we go into the Constitution, what I see happening is possibly that our coins might go into Ripple custody wallet. And just like a bank, your money or your coins will be accounted for. So therefore, if anyone tries to fraud you of your coin, they'll be able to track your coin, just like when they track the fraud out of the banks and you get your money back eventually. So we will then put our XRP coins possibly into Ripple custody wallet, and then you won't have to worry about external hard wallets and leaving your money on exchanges and things. The Ripple and the military operation will not want any of those coins missing. they will need all 100 billion coins to transact to create the liquidity needed in the markets. So when we put, this is only my view, when we put our coins in the staking pool of Ripple Custody Wallet, the banks will access the coin from there. But every time the bank accesses my coin, they have to pay me. So then I become the bank. So you'll then maybe go get a loan for a house. And that may not even be from a bank, because we don't want the bank to have the power. So that loan might come in a different form, I'm not too sure. But just say you go get a loan for a house, and just say, for example, and it won't be anywhere near this, just say you got $1 million worth of XRP, and they give you 10% on your money per annum. That's 100 grand. So then you go and get a loan, and then the passive income you're making, that will pay off the loan. So that's kind of how I see everything playing out. I could be wrong about everything I'm saying, so make sure you do your own research. XRP is the only coin that can transact offline. It's called XPOP if you want to look it up. If all the internet goes down, XRP can still transact. The XRPL can have all the world's debt running through it. The world's debt added to the ledger. It can solve a debt crisis. It can also have all the world's money running through it transactionally. Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme. You have to mine it. The miners have to make profit from their mining. If XRP and Bitcoin didn't have a name and you just bought them for their functionality, you would not buy Bitcoin. People only buy Bitcoin because it's been around for a while and they just know it to be the leader. But as you've seen, BTC adds up to 25 numerical value. ETH equals 33. Add those numbers together and you get 58. So XRP adds up to 58. And guess who was born in 1958? Michael Jackson. That's right. So if you look at some of Michael Jackson's video, there's one where that song where it says, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. And he's in a silver and gold, like not suit, but kind of like a shiny sort of jacket. It's gold and silver. And if you think back to the Bible, Judas betrayed Jesus with 30 pieces of silver. Hence why silver and gold are going up, which is God's money. However, so the digital part to this new financial system, obviously our system is backed by gold. And as people think that if you're going into a beast system, when they've read the Bible, they think they're getting screwed over. But ours is backed by gold. The New World Order was not backed by anything. What else? Michael Jackson, I believe they pointed the finger at him as being a pedophile, but I think they knew that he was a threat to bringing down the evil music industry and the film industry. And so I believe he is still alive, and so is Princess Diana. And they were very close, and Trump was close with both Princess Diana and also Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson used to live in Trump Tower, and he used to hang out with the Trump kids and everything like that. So they know each other very well. And so Michael Jackson basically owned 50% of Sony Records. And so what he did, he married Lisa Marie Presley as a business decision. He then took on part of Elvis's catalog, which made him over 50% owner of Sony Records. So he was able to bring down the evil within Sony Records and basically collapse all the others with them, along with all the film industry as well. Princess Diana, she when she left the restaurant, she left in a vehicle, and the one that actually crashed was had different number plates. So she's 100% still alive, and she was seen on Trump's Apprentice show in disguise, sort of thing. But she's definitely alive, and I wouldn't put it past her being a relative of Trump, maybe even a sister, possibly. I'm not too sure. I haven't researched it for a while. But JFK Jr., I believe, is still alive, and possibly he may have had a son that was an AFL player in Australia. What is his name? Josh Kennedy. Or whether he's a relative of, I'm not too sure. We now place people all around the world, so we control the world. Whereas the evil place people all around the world to control the world. We're doing it back to them. So we take power, and that we'll never lose power again. And obviously this is all the works of God and Jesus Christ at the end of the day. But you still need to understand the military operation to understand what's playing out with the Bible. And too many people that read the Bible, they're missing the point. And they want everything to be true with the Bible, and it is. But you have to know a couple of points that are playing out and who's orchestrating this. So with JFK, for example, the reason why we talk about Q and QAnon, and sometimes Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. Trump sometimes has 17 flags behind him with gold trim around those flags. The reason for that Q is if you put a camera up to the sperm, the egg and the sperm, like that, it makes a Q. When the sperm and the egg, if you had a camera on that sperm and the egg, when it collides, it gives off a blue flash. This goes back to JFK when his kid was wearing Tiffany blue. And so when Trump took over Obama, he handed him a box, a Tiffany blue box. And he was, Obama, he was there with Melania, and he handed over the box to Obama and Big Mike. So if you don't know, Big Mike, Michelle Obama, has a cock, and that's why we call him Big Mike, because his name's Michael. Anyway, so that blue flash means we're pro-life. The evil, the satanic, they wanted to kill us all off, so they're not pro-life, they're against life. If you go back to what I said about Christmas, that being pagan, what I see happens is the pagans, if you go from Christmas Day around 40 weeks, you come to 9/11 roughly. What I see the pagans doing when we celebrate Christmas, they're kind of having a little chuckle to themselves in the background, celebrating the non-birth of a Christian, because that's the beginning of life. So they see it as the non-birth of a Christian. Anyway, so getting back to why Trump handed over the blue box is because we're pro-life, and that blue flash, going back to Q, the sperm and the egg, represents that. That's what I see it representing. It could have a different meaning, I'm not too sure, but with the collection of my information, That's how I see it. What else haven't I covered? So getting back to these 6 billion phones that we are meant to be distributed out to us, they will have a certain amount of money in those phones. For example, the Mexicans that came across the border illegally into America, first off, they offered them free flights out of there if they turned themselves in. That was number one. The second thing was the US government had ICE. I forget what that represents, the name of it. But then they went in and they got whoever they could and removed them. The third thing that I see happening is that in these phones there'll be a certain amount of money. So everyone's going to go back to their own countries anyway, because there'll be enough money in these phones for people to want to go home and collect them. So they will go home eventually anyway, and then they're going to have to come into certain countries legally, not illegally. I just get past this truck. Yeah, so they'll have to go back to their own countries anyway. And as I said before, every country's persons will go back to their own country and they will develop their own countries. There will be no wars past this date, and these wars aren't even really wars. They're targeted precision hits to then, one, to play out to fulfill biblical prophecy. So we're watching a bit of a movie. Some of it's CGI, some of it's real, some of it's not. But as I said, we go around the world and we target certain oil deposits so that we don't fuel the pockets of the evil. And as we say, no new money can enter the system until the old system has been taken down. So therefore, we're going to have to wait near when the constitutional elections play out. Is XRP going to have a run before then? Who knows? But I would say the big one will come when we come close to the constitutional elections. Jasara and Asara. Jasara means global. It stands for global. Nasara stands for national. There's a whole book that is thick. I have not read it, but I've listened to Charlie Ward and Jason Q, and Jason Q's gone through it thoroughly, and a lot of that stuff has already played out, and you can see that is playing out. Is everything going to ring true to everything that is said in that? Who knows? But basically, all you people that give it to Charlie Ward need a good knuckle sandwich, because basically 90% of what he has said has played out. Maybe not the dates. Who cares about the dates? It's more about the events. But what he's actually said that's going to play out has played out. And obviously he goes to Mar-a-Lago, so he's got a fair handle on what is going on. So people say, well, how do you know all this stuff and whatever? Well, I say, well, I listen to certain people. I've done my own research. I listened to Charlie Ward, Bo Pony for the biblical stuff, as well as my own research, my own decoding. I chat with other ex-military people. I listened to Derek Johnson early in the stage to understand all the laws and orders of the military and what was playing out and what they meant. I've done a phenomenal amount of research, and it's difficult just to tell someone and that they understand it, and it's a lot of information for me to take 5 years or more research and then give it to you, and then for you to think everything is true. But the good thing now, if we told you that 5 years ago, you wouldn't believe us, but you're starting to see things play out now, and people are really starting to wake up, and it's great to see. I like doing the job that I do at the moment because it gives me a good indication of how many people are awake. The things that I spoke to about to people in the past, maybe 50% were happy to hear it, and but this was only 3 months ago. Now basically 90% of people love hearing what I tell them, because that's an indication of everyone is waking up. It's fully, everyone's nearly awake. It's just that they don't have the information to go with it. So that's why I'm doing this video, to really fill in the gaps for you and take 5 years of research and try and pull that into less than an hour to give you a good understanding of what has gone on. The royal family actually aren't the royal family, the proper bloodline. Supposedly in the early 1800s, they went bankrupt. And then when the Rothschilds and all that took over, they said, we'll continue the royal family, but in exchange for breeding rights. So they are Rothschild Batards. Another thing I'll say is I picked up someone that was Jehovah's Witness the other day, and you can look up, I forget what country it's in, but if you look from the top view down on Jehovah's Witness, theirs is shaped into a pyramid, and the pyramid is the all-seeing eye, and that is satanic. So Jehovah's Witness is no good. And basically, if you look at it, it's kind of like the New World Order plan. You will own nothing and be happy. So it's not like we need to own everything and be selfish. No, it just means you don't hand over power to the evil. This time we're going to control the finances, and the evil will not have any at all. They will suffer for not following God and not standing up for humanity. As I tell people in here, you can think of me basically as military that doesn't get paid in a digital version. When I saw what was going on with the vaccines, I stood up for humanity, as many of my other mates and followers on Twitter. We stood up for the greater good of humanity, and because you just never let evil win. There's no way I was wearing a fucking mask. They can stick that straight up their ass. I stayed away from going out to nightclubs and all that type of stuff. You stand for the truth, and that will lead you to Jesus Christ. It'll lead you to the truth, and that is Jesus Christ. What else? I want to touch on, in Australia at the moment, in our NRL, the rugby league, we were told ages ago that in our new financial system we would pay very minimal tax. US citizens didn't pay tax before 1913. So we are all going to pay minimal tax. So at the moment there's a new side coming into the competition soon in 2028, I think, and it's Papua New Guinea. All the players at the moment are being lured into those deals because it is tax-free dollars. They are going to go and get lured by the money in the tax-free dollars. Then they're going to find out when we have constitutional elections that in the new system, everyone's going to be paying minimal tax. So therefore, the players that stay in their own teams and don't chase the tax-free dollars are probably just going to be just about as better off as what the ones that are chasing the tax-free dollars. So it goes back to the Colosseum, not to idolize sports people and all that type of stuff. But yeah, Charlie Ward did discuss this a while ago about, I think he used soccer as an example, whether if they were only getting ticket sales through the door and not the big money through third parties and all that type of stuff, you know, it'd be interesting to see who actually played for the love of it. But this is obviously a bit different. They'll still get good money, but they will play this time. They're going to go for the money, the tax-free dollars, but it probably won't make too much difference. But then they're going to be stuck in Papua New Guinea. I know there's many more things to this. JFK Jr. And his wife, I believe, are still alive, and we have photos to prove it where they're taking pictures of their own plane crash. So that's that. This has been a long-range plan to take down the evil, this military operation. It's been perfectly planned. Yeah, as I was saying, it's not what Trump says, it's what he's saying. And so many people get him wrong because they simply do not know how to read the play. As I said, Stormy Daniels, it doesn't mean that he had sex with Stormy Daniels. Stormy is this storm is upon us, and Daniels is the book of Daniel. So if you can't, this is why you need all you people that read the Bible and only read the Bible. I love yous, that's awesome. But you need to know the military operation. Otherwise, you're not going to make sense of the Bible, of what is playing out. You'll understand roughly what is playing out, but you will not understand who is orchestrating this and who is in control. We are in control, and we are running the show. We hold the gold and we control the oil, and therefore, when we move into this new system, there will be absolutely zero wars, because that's what they used against us to create wars. They held the gold and they controlled the oil. But that's we've taken control of that. So it's game over for them. The evil is finished. What else? How long have I been going? That's an hour. I don't know what else to talk about. Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll do it. That'll just about do it. I know I'm going to kick myself for not talking about other things, but I was just doing this video as a trial run through to get all my structure right of what I wanted to speak about. But I've pretty much covered a lot of stuff. Yeah, just keep thinking about the year 2000, A to Z, 2026. A begins again at 27. Jesus begun his ministry at AD 27. As I said, Australia's being used to try and disprove the Bible in these times, these end times. And but the truth can be seen very easily. The Aboriginal people just don't have the numbers that would need need to be to prove that they were native to this country. It's we've all been used by the evil. The other thing is, now that we know that Aboriginals aren't native to the land, it would mean that they're not Aboriginals, because Aborigine means native to land. So obviously we'll probably keep calling them Aboriginals, but in the definition term of it, they will not be Aboriginals really. You'll have to find their origin, which is probably southern India, Indonesia, or Sri Lankan areas. Yeah. But this isn't about being against anyone. It's about the people. The power's coming back to the people. And we take down the evil, and we all get to live good lives. Yeah, supposedly we'll be working a lot less in the future. We'll have more time for our families and things like that. We'll be coming into a time of, we've been through a period where over 50% of marriages all fail. And they've designed it that way because they've made money the most important thing. So then you have people selling their souls for money, especially in music and film and everything like that, to climb the ladder. Also, they make the politicians, basically they select people that are gay, because then they can make them do sex acts on camera, and they can hold them in a blackmail position. So if they ever step out of line, they'll release that video and show the world that to them. It's basically like gang mentality in that world, in that Freemasonry world. And also, if you look into it, Freemasonry is actually connected to ISIS, Islam. And it's easy to see, because then you got King Charles that aligned with Islam. You've got other government officials and council officials that we knew were Freemasonry, and then they try and get baptized and become Christian and all that shit. But we know the slimy snakes. We know who they are. So they'll be brought down. We know that they're faulty. So yeah. Getting back to how I said about 3.5 years added to Biden's inauguration. That 3.5 years comes to 42 months. The rainbow is 42 degrees. Our new world currency is called Rainbow Treasury Notes, or Rainbow Treasury Currency. So the rainbow is God-given. It's not for LGBTQ, whatever the fuck they call them, to groom children and pedophilia and all that crap. So they try to take everything that we have, our numbers, our symbols, everything, and they make a mockery of it. So there is Adam and Eve, there is female, male and female. There's not a million other things like they tried to. They are just delusional, and they want to just take us away from Adam and Eve, the beginning of life. So there's so much more to talk about, but I can't think right now. I think that'll be it. If I might sit on this video for a little bit, and if there's anything I haven't covered, I might have a decent structure to work off, to lay out. But if I've covered most things, I might just put this out anyway, because it's long. I do this every day when I drive people around, and yeah, it can get a bit draining after a while, because I'm giving all the information to just a few, 1 or 2 people or 3 people or whatever, and speaking 30 minutes at a time or an hour. But it's been good, because it's given me a little bit of structure to work off of how I lay it out to them. So when I come to talk in front of the camera, yeah, it's a bit easier. Anyway, I think that'll do. I'm going to kick myself, I know, of other stuff I haven't spoken about, but that'll give you a good understanding of what's been going on, the evil that has been going on. We shouldn't had to have processed all this stuff, but we stood up for humanity, and we did it out of the kindness of our hearts, and we stood up for what is right. It's exactly what we should always do. Never let evil win, ever again. Always remember that. Money is not the most important thing. Standing up for the truth is. Because once you win that, you win the whole system. You bring the evil down and you win anyway. So I know everyone had families and stuff like that to provide for, so certain people needed to stick to that, and everyone played their part in this. But yeah, there are certain people that could put the time into it to stand up and try and break down this information, and simplify so much information and give it to you to not so that you didn't have to use so much time, and break it down simply in a small amount of time. Yeah, but anyway, just want to say thanks to everyone else who stood up in this time, and I'm glad that I did, and I would do it again, even though it took a lot. I gave up 5 years of my life and put my life on hold for this, because I knew how important it was. Yeah, appreciate everything that's coming for you, because there's great things to come 2027 and onwards. Yeah, pick up that Bible, go to the Holy Bible app on your phones, download it. It's a brown app. Download that, listen to it from start to finish. Put this information that I've given you with it, and it'll be the best thing you ever do. So I know everything that I've achieved in rugby league, in music, the best thing I ever did was stand up for humanity, know this military operation, and also understand the Bible and understand the Holy Spirit. Once you understand the Holy Spirit and you have that within yourself, it's powerful. And so there's a few lines that I've said over time to clear energies and things like that. It's very simple, and you can use it wherever you go very quickly. And so I'll end on this. This is what I say. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command all negative energy leave my body and instill positivity. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command all negative energy leave my body and instill positivity. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command all negative energy leave my body and instill positivity. Amen. Talk to you later.